I'm Dr. Masood Raja, and today we have a wonderful opportunity of having a conversation with Dr. Naila Sahar. And before I welcome her, I would just briefly like to introduce her. Dr. Sahar did her PhD as a Fulbright scholar from State University of New York, Buffalo, from the Department of English. Her areas of interest include gender studies, Islamic feminism, feminist studies, and her dissertation was entitled Reimagining Muslim Women, Gendered Religious Life and Resistance in the Age of Islamophobia. And we'll probably get to talk about that too. Her works have been published in South Asian Review, South Asian Voices, and Journal of Commonwealth Studies. And Dr. Sahar is currently Assistant Professor of Literature at Forman Christian College, a chartered university in Lahore. So welcome, Naila ji. Thank you so much for making time for this. And I hope it wasn't too much of an imposition. You'll probably have to turn your mic on.
Okay. It's already on. Can you hear me now?
So, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, somehow I can't hear you, so let me see. All right, so it should probably work now.
Hi. Hello.
Yeah, now I
can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry.
All right. So there must be some issue going on. Thank you so much, Dr. Raja. It's always such a pleasure talking with you, having you for talks, and thank you for proposing this.
No, and thank you so much for making time. I know it's busy time, and also, you have family and COVID-19 to deal with. So my idea was that, kind of we are dealing with it over here, but also to get a perspective about, as an academic and as a teacher, how are you and your community dealing with it? So how was the transition to this sudden online teaching for you?
Dr. Raja, it's been not easy, I would say. I have been teaching as a regular faculty at Forman Christian College and as a visiting faculty at UMT. So the kind of approach that these both institutions had, it was so different that I felt like, going with both kind of modus operandis wasn't easy for me to manage, because UMT's approach was like jumping into Zoom classes right away without any trainings and without any, kind of intimation regarding that. FC took some time, and it took some time in intimidating us. Yeah, this whole experience has been so. But yeah, they intimated us about it, and they told us that this is how it will go. There is LMS, there is going to be Zoom probably, and they also encouraged us that you can teach in any way you want. For example, they said that we can use WhatsApp as well. They said that we could just record the lectures and put them online for students, or just send them the links. However, at UMT, it was like, okay, you have to be there on Zoom with your classes for consistently 3 hours. And that experience was like mind-blowing, in the sense that what to do in 3 hours? 3 hours is such a long time period when you don't have students, face-to-face with you. They can't discuss stuff. And you can't see them virtually, because most of them are not comfortable using the video mode. And I kind of left it on them that, okay, fine, if you're not comfortable using the video and showing yourself on the camera, I'm not going to push you for that, because I can see that it's some people are not comfortable enough for that. So I knew that this time, this is an extraordinary circumstance for all of us, for the teachers, for students. And I felt like I should give them the leeway to choose whatever they want. If they want to show their faces, fine. If they don't want to do that, I'm good with that. And this is what happened. Since I couldn't see them, there wasn't a dynamic of participation there a lot. And however, the FC classes, they had, since FC had given us, the choice to choose whether okay, take the Zoom classes or not, upload your lectures or not, or try to connect in whatever way is comfortable with you. So I thought that it was a good idea to at least take each course 1 hour Zoom class every week. So that's how I managed. And with
And how
FC
many
students,
classes
what
did
I
you have? Sorry, how many classes did
so
you
the
have? Say,
load is actually a lot in Pakistan. You must be knowing that
yeah.
an assistant professor is taking 7 courses per year.
Wow.
So this time I had opted, it was crazy this time. I was teaching 2 courses as a visiting faculty, 4 courses here at FC. So I was teaching 6 courses.
Oh my God.
So you can imagine what I was going through. It wasn't easy. And when UMT is wanting me to be there on Zoom classes 3 hours per week for every class, and at FC, I decided that I am going to be there for them on Zoom at least per hour every week. And with FC students, since it was just 1 hour per week, what I did was I invited them that, okay, fine, if you would start talking on the Zoom classes, it would be a lot of we won't be able to understand each other. So what I did was I opened the chat for them and I said them that, okay, keep on writing your ideas, your confusions, your any concerns. You can keep on talking with each other even if you want to say anything you want. So I opened the chat for them, and then every once in a while during the lecture, I would open the chat, read what they were saying, and even take their names. That, okay, for example, okay, someone, you said this. Okay, Rabia, you said this. So I think, yes, this is how it is, or I don't agree, or I disagree, or is there somebody else who would like to, say something about this point? So I feel like the online teaching has been a dynamic where teachers had to be um, extremely considerable of the circumstance they were going through, and they had to be empathetic as well with the students, considerate and empathetic as well.
Hmm.
So, and I felt that I missed my students so much because
Yeah.
they were not there, and I
Yeah,
missed
that's how
their
I.
participation a lot.
So I was.
Yeah. So you also had the Zoom classes?
Thankfully, I was better prepared for it because I already do so much work online.
Yes.
So I was immediately able to shift to my classes to StreamYard and just deliver live lectures. But then I'm lucky, I only have 2 classes. My wife Jenny had to
Ah.
struggle because she teaches 4 classes and there are 4 different
Oh my
tracks.
God.
So she had to start from the scratch. So I think it depends on what our
Hmm.
technological engagement is and then what's our teaching load. But I saw, like in your comments, what I was noticing was that there are three
Yeah.
constituencies in this pandemic, right? There are teachers, you and me, there are the students whom we serve, and then there are the institutions,
Hmm.
right? Whose job it is to facilitate these things. So, what I can gather is that in your case, FC was able to come up with a
Hmm.
strategy and encourage you to tackle this unusual situation, whereas the other institution, I don't know what UMT stands for,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
they were kind of probably less prepared, but also
Right.
adamant
So,
that you must do what they thought was absolutely necessary. So I think that plays a huge role in our performance as
right. Yeah. That's
well.
true.
What do you think in
That's
terms of
extremely true. Yes.
did you all have to take into account the digital divide that some students might not have access to internet or a good connection or even a mobile phone? I mean, I know the teachers did, but did the institutions keep that in mind as well? Or
Institutions did keep that in mind, and I feel that FC has been, again, their strategy was really good about it, because Pakistan, there we are still not that developed where everybody could have a good internet connection. And many of my students, they're living in Waziristan, they're from northern areas, for example, Hunza, and they would keep on complaining that they don't have nice connections or good connections and they can't attend the classes. So what they did was they arranged for course packs, and for that they also asked the faculty that they record their lectures and give the lectures in USBs, and then those USBs and the whole course pack was shifted to the students and given to them through the mail. So that was one way of connecting with students. Other than that, there were a few students who dropped out. There were some who wanted not to drop out because already they had spent a lot of money and they wanted to keep on going with their courses. So in that case, there were many students with me who wanted to keep in touch through the WhatsApp, because WhatsApp doesn't require that much of a good connection, and you can at least drop the message to the teacher and let them know that I'm working or I'm going to a certain place every time to listen to the lecture, and then I'm trying to complete my assignment. So what I did every time was record those Zoom lectures and then email them as well. So in that way, every student who was not who didn't have a connection right at that moment when the lecture was going on, they were able to read or the emails. They were able to listen to the lectures later on whenever it was convenient. So in that manner, we kind of tried to manage. Other than that, there were such strange problems and such, I mean, like horrible problems. Not strange, because the whole world is going through this strange phenomena. So they were like people losing their relatives, losing their parents because of COVID-19. They were, there has been a concern about domestic abuse as well. So
Yeah.
one of my MPhil students, she wrote me that she is living with her husband who would constantly abuse her, and emotionally and physically. And she was like, I don't know how to continue. So telling them what to do was a challenge for the teachers. For me, I felt like I'm not only a teacher, but I am also kind of counseling them as well, thoroughly throughout. I was trying to understand them and trying to give them the suggestions that could somehow work for them. But this student who kept on complaining about the abuse, I was totally clueless what to tell her. I didn't know what to tell her. Go where? When the
Yeah, and
lockdowns are going on throughout the country, and when
yeah,
she's already, yeah,
yeah, and the question then is like, when in these crisis situations, then things come up that are caused by the pandemic and its attending, but then we as teachers really neither have the resources
yeah,
nor the training to actually deal with it.
exactly,
Yeah. So, what's your
yes,
institution's plan for the next fall
right,
semester? Are they?
right. So yeah, there has been a
Did we lose connection? uh, so my question
exactly.
was like, uh, is your institution planning to do
Yeah,
online?
I have these and the connections.
Okay, sorry. I think there is a delay. So, can you hear me now?
There is a delay, yes.
So, is
I
your
can. I need to check my internet connection. I hope it is
hmm,
working well, because it's kind of going off again and again. So
okay?
yeah. Are you asking about the institution is working ahead
Like, what are their plans for
for
the
the
fall
fall as
semester
well
for
online?
teaching? Have you been told that you'll be
Yeah.
teaching
So
online?
we haven't gotten any. Okay, I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I think what
I'll
if
just check my
yeah, if you
laptop
are on a
rather. Just
wireless router,
a second.
I don't know if you are at home. If you can connect it to your cable, through your cable, then you'll come through better. Sorry. But if you're on a wireless connection, sometimes it goes up and down.
Yeah, my connection seems okay. So
Okay. So it's all right. I mean,
it does go off.
yeah, this
So
is
yeah, this is one of the challenges as well, Dr. Raja,
in teaching as well.
throughout teaching.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yes, many times it keeps on happening. Yeah.
mhm. So, like, what are you doing in order to prepare for the fall? Like, are you already developing classes and content online or recording your lectures or?
Yes, I'm kind of getting ready for that as well because I know we can't be back to the institutions as yet.
Hmm.
I've heard that Punjab government is doing something about it and they are wanting the students to be back on campuses. But they're also very apprehensive about how would they take the measures to kind of save everybody of the infection and how they would manage the distance which is required, which is kind of not possible when the students are sitting in the classrooms.
Hmm.
There is a proposal as well that if they would like the students back to the campuses, it would be just a 3-hour day of classes. So let's see. They're thinking about that in the schools as well. I'm not sure what the universities are going to do. So I think it will have to go online even this time as well, because I don't see things getting okay as yet. In Pakistan, they say there is a kind of a second wave now. I can see
Hmm.
US is doing much better. I don't know if they're doing better or they're like
No,
opening places. But when I look at the pictures,
it's the stupid governors opening too early. The smart ones are still being very cautious.
oh my god,
And of course, like we have the stupid
I can
president,
understand.
so go figure.
Oh my
But
god,
one thing that like
there is a lot of yeah.
my institution has done is that people who have chronic health conditions like heart, diabetes, and all, professors, they have already asked us to fill a form where we can request that I will teach remotely. So they've already started doing that for people
That
with
is
chronic
nice.
conditions. I mean, they are required by law to accommodate us, but the law is a
Hmm.
bit fuzzy on it. But my university, at least, is already planning that anyone who has a chronic health condition and their family members, if they have a family member with a chronic health, even then they can be exempted from face-to-face teaching. So I guess, I mean, a lot of what we do depends on institutions and how they treat us and our
That is
students.
really nice of them.
Yeah. Um, I think in terms of
It
institution,
does.
I
It
think
does.
FC is a more established.
Another thing that I've noticed,
Mhm. Go ahead, please.
yeah, yeah,
You were
you're
saying you
right.
noticed something else?
Yeah. So I was telling you, I have noticed that the college administrations, not FC, but other administrations, they are uh, the ones that are really paranoid about controlling their faculty, especially. What they are doing is they are extraordinarily, it's a kind of surveilling that is going on. They would keep an eye whether you are taking class or not, for how many hours you are taking that, did you take student attendance or not, you have to fill the whole performa in the middle of the course, during the course, regarding your classes. So there is a paranoia going on regarding the teacher surveillance as well, because they feel that if we are paying you, then we have to put you in a very difficult position where you have to show your performance, and you have to make it show that you are like kind of busy the whole day long doing something with us, and only then we'll pay you. So I don't know if this dynamic is only in Pakistan, because it's very difficult then. um, I have experienced it myself as well, the kind of surveillance with this other institute where I'm working as a VF, visiting faculty, and there is so much surveillance that it exasperates you, and you feel as if the sanctity of your profession is kind of challenged because you're not trusted enough as a teacher.
Mhm.
So this is another dynamic which I feel is very upsetting. about the organizations that are running teaching as a business.
Yeah. And I think the private universities are likely to be more like that. I mean, that's my guess about Pakistan. Uh, but
Yes, they are.
yeah.
Exactly. And there are like, yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of, we've talked about students, but obviously this is also impacting our own lives. So, have you seen, how has it
Yes.
impacted your own life? You have kids, you don't, and obviously they're probably not going to school either. And so, how do you handle
Right. They
both?
are not. Uh, it's not easy again. That is also not easy. Why? Because initially my husband was also working from home and we needed 4 devices to work,
Mhm.
and really good internet, which is, kind of an impossibility here. So we had like 2 connections of internet, 2 devices connected somewhere else, 2 connected somewhere else. We needed quiet places. And I feel that teaching online and studying online is also a kind of privilege. You need to have devices which are, of course, they cost a lot,
Mhm.
and you need good internet connections, which again cost a lot. So again, that's the dynamic where only those who are privileged enough to have good connections, 4 devices, 3 devices at least, only they are able to kind of get it running. Otherwise, again, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So in terms of teaching and studying at home, from home, it's been very difficult for 4 of us.
Mhm. I can. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I liked about our institution was that the library, our library, which has remained open with limited personnel, uh, made available about, I think they have about 400 laptops that the students can borrow if they don't have a laptop for their classes. And then they also
Wow.
declared certain areas on campus which are internet hot zones. So, like, you can sit in a corner on our campus and take your class or do your work. And they went out of their way to promote these things. I mean, we have a whole COVID-19 team that spearheads the health issues, but also the student related issues. And I found
Wow.
that aspect of our university really impressive, that they had a plan, they still have a plan, and they're implementing it for
That is
faculty.
amazing.
Yeah, for students. I mean, even for faculty, like my laptop died the very day the lockdown happened. And so I was able to contact our own department, our own computer support, and they lent me a laptop, which I've been using. So I think to rely on
Wow.
just on faculty to do everything. I think increasingly the difference I see is it's never really just the resources, it's whether someone actually thinks of these things or not, at the higher administration level of a university. So
Very true.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool. So do you
that's
have
very
like
true.
any questions about our experience or our students or anything, anything that you would like to leave?
I would love to listen to your, yeah, I would love to know how your students are responding to it. Are they like liking it, or they're complaining? How it's coming
Well, I mean,
along?
when we went into online teaching, of course, they were all apprehensive, right? Because it was a huge transition. And you have been at an American university, just like in Pakistan. Part of the education is the college experience, coming to campus and meeting your friends. But I think what I did with my classes was that as soon as we went online, I basically told them this: I can't run this class like I was going to run a face to face class. So I told them that my main mission from that till the end of the semester was to see them through. So I relaxed like any stringent requirements that we might have had.
Yeah.
We formatted the courses. But the purpose was to make sure that they stay in the class and they finish. So, and reassuring them. Overall, I am deeply impressed with our students. I mean, the students generally in United States, you've taught probably during your PhD, they, by and large, majority of them are kind and generous. We don't have the kind of disruptive problems that I experienced while in Pakistan. There are no students who are rude to you or try to tease you if you're a female professor, right? That's the general educational culture we have, especially. I mean, there are problem students we get every now and then. So I would say I really actually absolutely again fell in love with my students. The way they treated me because they were more
Aw.
concerned about me and the way they were patient with me as we made the transition. And I always respect my students, but this experience has really made me appreciate as to how diverse our student body is, especially at UNT, and how
Yeah.
generous and kind they are.
Yeah.
So that was impressive. Um,
That's amazing. I have noticed the same. I have noticed that students are resilient and they're ready to take up challenges,
mhm,
and they responded. They tried to keep in contact. That was the best thing.
mhm.
They gave their best under these circumstances, which was really impressive. Dr. Raja, I had another question from you, about which I'm really confused myself as well. How to invite the students is one thing that every teacher is quite, they're thinking how to do that, because I have read a few posts of teachers where the teachers are like, okay, if right from the beginning of the semester, because it's been so challenging for everybody, so we are going to give you an A. So, there has been that approach as well. How do you feel about that? Should we be grading them an A just because the pandemic is going on? Is it appropriate to do that, um, or just grade them the way we have been doing always? What should be our approach towards grading and evaluating them towards the end of semester?
I think like something in the middle of, obviously we can't just say you get an A for participation, right? But what I tell my students when they walk into my class, philosophically speaking, is I tell them you're all A students. Now you have a semester to prove to me that you deserve that A, right? The idea is that they think of themselves as good students, and then, of course, step by step, their tests and all. My approach was that by the time we went online, our students had done half of the work. So I told them from now till the end, all you have is a final exam and a paper, right? So I will help you finish that, but I will make sure that my expectations of you are not as much as if you had a functional library and you could go to campus and do your research. So I eased those expectations. But
Yeah,
it wasn't just handing out A's.
yeah,
Yeah. We have a question here from one of our participants, and it is
yeah.
apart from the issues of infrastructure and institutional management, how do you motivate your students and keep their interest in learning through virtual platforms? So I think it's addressed to you.
That's an interesting question, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like you to answer that as well.
Hmm.
I think for me, it is through my tone. I feel when I'm speaking, tutor as well, how to keep that is highly dependent on what we are saying and can we keep their interest intact or not. So I try that the way I'm speaking, I make them feel that even if they are not looking at me or I'm not looking at them, it's just our sounds. I just try to make it more conversational, and as much conversational as possible. So I think this was the question, if I'm not getting it wrong.
Hmm.
This is one of the ways through which I kind of keep them occupied with what I am saying. Because at this time, through the virtual teaching, I feel that's the most challenging thing, how to keep them ingrained in what you are saying. because you never know if they're listening to you or not, since we can't see them. So,
Hmm.
they're on their own. So I feel this very challenging to, kind of keep them ingrained in what I say. And I feel my tone through which I'm kind of saying something, it has to be very dynamic. It has to have that high and low pitch to keep them interested uh, in the point that I'm elaborating. How do you do that, Dr. Raja?
I agree. I mean, it's in my case, it's like going out of your way to be more empathetic, right? And to what I've noticed works for me in these virtual environments is to come across as open and caring. I mean, if you have read your
Yeah,
Nancy Fraser's and
yeah,
others, people do feel more connected and more engaged if they know they are being acknowledged, right? If they are recognized. But also, I think empathizing
right.
and particularizing. I had one student who, uh, who had, all our students had gone home. And then one of the students messaged me and said, well, I can't be during my class time because I already took a job and I have to work a shift. So my first response was, uh, no, you have to be there in front of your computer because it's just like a face to face class. And I sent it to her. And then I realized this
Yeah,
student is, right now somewhere in Louisiana. She has to now go and talk to her boss and say, can I reschedule my class? So I immediately then messaged her back and I told her, look, don't cancel your shifts, right? I mean, 80% of our students work through college. I was like, don't cancel your shifts. I will record the lecture and have it available for you. But for future classes, please don't schedule work during the class hour. So it was obviously a misunderstanding on her part and kind of slightly unkind on my part, not to put myself in her shoes. And that taught me something that, I mean, if you look at my office computer, I have a sticker here right at the bottom which says be kind. Do you know why? Because sometimes you get an email which
oh,
is silly and
yes.
which has offended you, right? And you want to immediately say something, and then you suddenly realize, no, no, this is an 18-year-old. You have to treat
No.
kind. So I think that works for me. Now, gender plays a huge role in it, right? I mean, men
Yeah,
tackle students differently here as well as in
right.
Pakistan. My wife has a totally different experience, right? She is kind and generous, but she also has to be firm because students, especially male students, tend to trivialize the work of female professors, right? In so many cases, I don't want to
Yeah,
generalize that.
yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
think
Yeah,
as a female professor, the strategies will have to be slightly different because the gender dynamics of that relationship is different. But by and large, as you said, tone matters. And the students, as long as they know that
yeah,
we care
that's true.
about their learning, I think they respond more positively. Sorry, I'm talking too much. It's your interview. So I had another
Yeah,
question
that's true.
about your
No, no,
experience.
it was
It's
it
not
was such an important point.
mhm. Is how has it impacted, let's say, your research work? We're talking about you as a teacher, but you're also a scholar, and especially in a very critical stage because you just recently, a year or two ago, finished your PhD. You're transitioning into a professional life. So, how has this epidemic impacted your research work, your writing?
Dr. Raja, again, it's been challenging in terms of having time for research, because when you are at home, I feel like it's even more difficult to work from home than it was from my office, because at your office you are going to the class, then you are coming back, then you have an hour just for your own work. Here at home, being a mother as well, I would tell you that it keeps me constantly occupied because okay, fine, I've given a class, then it's for kids, it's okay, we have to eat something, fine, now you have your online class, okay, sit and walk, now it's your homework, I'm going to help you in that, now it's my class again, I'm going to sit for that, then again it's probably snack time for them. So back and forth, so much is happening the whole day long,
Mm-hmm.
that it's very challenging to carve out time for research. I have been kind of trying to allocate time for different things, and I would say that because of this allocation of time for different slots, the thing that has gotten impacted the most is my sleep. Because every time everybody has gone to sleep, I feel like, okay, now this is me time probably, and I should sit and study something and probably write a few lines. And that has greatly impacted probably my, you know, this this of course the normalcy is not there, you just have to fake normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
So it has impacted my sleep cycle, and when you don't sleep well, you're kind of grumpy the whole day.
Yeah.
So I feel like being a mother as well, it's been more challenging, and I kind of always envy those women who probably by choice or otherwise who like to be just academics, and they had more time for their career. Being a mother, being an academic, uh, it is so much juggling, and it's crazy sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of allocating time slots, and sometimes compromising on my 8 hours sleep. If I get a 4 hour sleep, I feel like, okay, it was a good day. I know it's very bad, but I don't get how to work through it, and probably I need to ask people who are in my surroundings how they carry out
Situation, how do they do that? Okay, so like we are almost
yeah,
reaching 40
right.
minutes, and this will be available for your students and everyone else to watch on my YouTube channel. So, as a parting
All
comment,
right.
would you like to leave a message for your students and everyone else who's listening to this? Anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, everybody who's listening to us right now, I would tell them to follow Dr. Raja's Facebook, if you're allowed to do that, because I'm so impressed with how you do that, all that multitasking. You are a fabulous researcher. You like gardening. You are making stuff, such cool stuff with leather these days. You have so many pets. You have been growing vegetables, making a pagoda and whatnot. I'm so impressed
It's
with whatever
because
you
we
are
don't have
doing, and
kids.
it's amazing.
Yeah, we don't have to take care of any
Oh my
children.
god.
I think that's a
You
huge
are amazing. You
responsibility
as a couple
to
are amazing.
other people share. But thank you. And thank you so much for doing this. And as always, in your classes, if I can be of any help, in any way, please never hesitate
Thank
to
you.
contact me. And stay safe and
Thank you so
all the
much
best.
for, yeah, you too. Thank you for having me. And
Thank you.
thank you for always being available for us in Pakistan. It's a fabulous contribution that you are making. Thank you so much, Dr. Raja. It
And
was such
thank
a pleasure being with you.
same here. And thank you for joining me today. We'll do it again. Okay. All right. Khuda Hafiz and take care.
We should. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you
Goodbye.
so much.
Goodbye.
Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.